Easter morning. My name's David Woodall with the Emsdale Pastoral Charge in the United Church of Canada. Earlier in the week, it was an incredible spectacle. The flash bulbs were going off. The carpet was rolled out. People were decked out in their best clothes. The guests were full of dreams and hopes. There was enthusiasm in the air. The winners stood up on chairs and waved. The Oscars, aren't they wonderful? It was another incredible spectacle. There were no flashbulbs, but the carpet, in a way, was rolled out, and people were decked out in their best clothes, and the guests were full of dreams and hopes. There was enthusiasm in the air. The winners rode donkeys this time and entered Jerusalem. On this Easter Sunday, there is so much to remember of the events of this past week, the stories of our faith, the amazing entry and celebration in Jerusalem, the horrible betrayal of the people who at one time sang Hosanna to Jesus now became the people who yelled, Crucify him. We have that ability to change so quickly, to be so good and then so evil. And there are many of us who perform on cue to other people's directions. We just stop thinking for ourselves. We let other people speak for us. We mimic others, whoever happens to be our particular hero at this moment. Too often we let wrong be right and right be wrong. We stop trying to seek for the truth, but we let others convince us of what is true. And sadly, we're often misled. After that parade, we come to the Last Supper, and then the Garden of Gethsemane, and the betrayal of the cross, and finally, an empty grave. On that dark morning after the death, Mary ventured beyond what she knew, which was the death that happened. There was a body that was buried. Uncertainty, fear of failure, a sealed tomb. She ventured why? Maybe with hope, maybe just remembering into that cemetery on that day, and she found, what did she find? A tomb that was open. There was a new hope found in the shadows of her doubt and uncertainty. Mary stood weeping outside the tomb. As she wept, she bent over to look, and she saw two angels in white sitting where the body of Jesus had been lying, one at the head and one and the other at the feet. They said to her, Woman, why are you weeping? She said to them, They've taken away my Lord, and I don't know where they've laid him. And then Jesus said to her, Woman, why are you weeping? Whom are you looking for? Supposing him to be the gardener, she said to him, Sir, if you have carried him away, tell me where you've taken him, and I will take him away. And Jesus said to her, Mary. In the midst of uncertainty and doubt, Mary heard her name. But it could have been your name, or it could have been my name. It was spoken. And in that sound was the invitation for Mary, for you, and for me to remember who we are, and to remember that this life is a gift, and to remember that we live in hope, not in fear. You see, we're not the people of the crucifixion. We're the people of the resurrection. And this always happens with God. What we think of as the end of the story, in the world God is creating, it becomes only the beginning. God quite simply changes the story. And so the hungry are fed, and the homeless are housed, the prisoners are redeemed. Death is overcome by life, and light overcomes darkness. And in the midst of the darkness, Mary discovered the story she thought she understood It's changed. She knew what was supposed to happen when you died. Her memory was strong that day, but her hope was stronger. God changed the story, and Mary heard her name spoken. Do you remember who you are, Mary? Do you remember who you are? Do I remember who I am? What is it you're living for? What is it I am living for? I read the story of Alexei Navalny, the Russian opposition leader who died in a Russian jail, as so many of Vladimir Putin's opponents seem to do. I wondered about the intentionality of how he lived his life and what he was prepared to live for, and now, it appears, what he was prepared to die for. This Easter Sunday, we are invited to remember who we are, and then to become intentional about how we live our lives. That's the only way we can honor the events of these days. You see, we are in days of deep division, in days of judgment, in days of extremist approaches to life. But Easter is an invitation to be intentional about how we live, about building bridges between each other, about saying death is not the end, but life is, about living the values we believe in, being the people that God created us to be. Are we the crowd that flows one way and then the next day we flow the next way? Or do we step out from the crowd? It is our actions and our hopes, more than our words, that are the testimony of our lives. On this Easter morning, Mary made her way through the darkness to arrive at the grave of Jesus, just as the sun was rising. And sometimes, if we are going to get anywhere in this life, we must start the journey in the dark, in confusion, not sure what we're doing, because many of the finest endeavors have only come about after years of frustrating work. I've talked with many people who have traveled through their own personal times of darkness, and then they reflect back on the experience and find that through those times emerge the glimmers of a new person. We're not the Good Friday people. We're the Easter people. And like Mary, we will travel through the night. And like Mary at the empty tomb, hope will beckon us into the light of day. Behold, I make all things new, is the promise that we hold on to. And so quietly we understand that death does not define us, but life does. My name is spoken by the one who created us. Your name is spoken by the one who wove you together in your mother's womb. We hear the voice of Jesus. We do not cling to the past, to all the old fears. Instead, we rise to new life with a daring and a tender love. This Easter, go in peace. The world is waiting. And whatever you do, do it for love. Build some wonderful bridges. Let's bring this world back together. Let's be intentional about our lives and live with courage and compassion and live in the grace of God. The grave is empty. Oh, won't you come and see?